Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, Asha. Now I'll take you all through a meditation right now. Request everybody to close your eyes. Make sure each one of you are seated very comfortably. Now, take your attention to your feet. Make sure they are relaxed. To your legs, make sure they are relaxed. To your thighs, relax. To your hips, relax. Make sure your back is straight, comfortably relaxed. Even if it is leaning either on the wall or the chair, it needs to be straight. Your shoulders, which are generally tensed, relax. Your neck, relax. Your forehead, the back of your head, and the top of your head. Take your awareness in these three areas. Relax. Your eyelids, relax. To your face, relax. To your lips, to your tongue, relax. Put a gentle smile on your lips. To your neck, relax. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. Your chest, relax. Your stomach, relax. Your feet, your legs, and your thighs, relax. Scan your body, bottom to top. Make sure each and every part of your body is completely relaxed. Now, take your attention to your breath. You will be gently breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Keep your focus on your breath for a few moments till I prompt you further. Attention on your breath. Slowly take your attention to the spot in between your eyebrows, where we put our tika, bindi, kumkum. There's a point in between your eyebrows. Take your attention and focus over there. That is called Agya Chakra. Focus there. If you feel slight tingling sensation over there, it's absolutely fine. Keep your focus, keep your attention at that point right now. Attention back to your Agya Chakra. If your mind has wandered, attention back to Agya Chakra, be very gentle with yourself. There is no force, just plain awareness to that point. Now gently take the attention to the voidness, to the darkness, to the absence of everything that you would be staring into. If there are certain images which is flashing in that darkness, it is fine. Try and pay no attention to those images, it will go away. Just be aware of the lack of all the thoughts, of the very presence, and into the darkness. Be there for some moments. Stare into the absence, into the darkness, with your eyes closed. You can see that you're aware, even if there are no thoughts, there are no sensations in your body. There is a presence of awareness, of the knower, even if there is nothing to be known. Be in that state for some time. Be the knower. Now slowly take your attention back to your breath. Attention back to your breath. You can now start moving your fingers slowly. Start rubbing your palms. Create some heat. And place it right in front of your eyes and slowly open. Okay, great. All of you are settled right now. Our Agya chakra is activated to absorb a lot of information that will come in right now. And if you want to switch on your video, please do that. It helps me to see the facial expression of each one of you and figure out whether you're getting it or not. All right. So here we go. Okay. Just I will quickly cover this important aspect that we discussed in our last session. The concept of Satya, Rita, and Dharma. This is very important for us because you will see that Dharma as a word will keep on coming back in Bhagwat Gita again and again, again and again. This word generally gets misunderstood, misrepresented a lot of times, and therefore understanding Dharma is very important. What exactly it means. So what we understood is that there is something called Satya or Satyam. Satyam is not necessarily the truth or saying the truth. It is the existence, the very reality that has brought the unmanifested world into manifested world. So it is the very substratum on which everything exists. That is Satya. Now, when existence comes into manifested form, there are certain principles on which everything exists. Those principle is called Rita. Rita is basically how everything operates. So scientifically speaking, there are weak forces, strong forces, matter, energy, everything seems to be working in these tandem. So Rita is basically how everything functions around us, how the entire cosmos functions, the functionality aspect of cosmos, the cosmic order, the Ishvara's intelligent order is called Rita. And then comes Dharma. Dharma is again, the root word is dhar, which is something that holds together. What does it holds? It basically holds or supports the Rita, the cosmic order. So our actions which are in tune with Rita. Yes. NSRL team has to. So our actions which is in tune with Rita can be called as Dharma. So Dharma has many facets, and as we go through Bhagwat Gita, you will understand what it means. And it is not something called a commandment or things that you should be doing, you should not be doing. And we are going to talk about Dharma a little bit today. So this is a very important aspect that we need to keep in our mind. Something called Satya, Rita, and Dharma. And our ancient rishis, they were interested in finding what? They were interested in finding what is that Satyam, what is that Rita, the cosmic order, and what, having understood the cosmic order, what things should we do so that we align with the cosmic order. And that has been called Dharma. So certain activities that we do upholds and supports the cosmic order and leads to our evolution. So that's the basic concept that we looked into. So today we are going to start with Bhagwat Gita. And then we spoke a lot about, Prathashtatraya, we spoke about various Vedas. So that was mostly from the introduction perspective. So today we are going to speak. So whatever I'm going to talk is basically from Swami Tadatmananda ji. He was initiated by Pujya Swami Dayanand Saraswati. He was formerly a computer engineer, and currently he runs Arshabodha Center in USA. So my talks are based on Swami Tadatmananda ji's talks. Now Swami Tadatmananda ji very clearly calls out that this chapter 1 of Bhagwat Gita and first 10 shlokas of chapter 2, Sri Shankaracharya has not given his commentary. So we are going to use the commentary of Madhusudana. We are going to use his commentaries. So Madhusudana has given an elaborate commentary on both chapter 1 of Bhagwat Gita, and we are going to use his commentary. So this context is clear right now. So let us go into the details. Let's go in the first shloka itself. Now, I just wanted to kind of put it out over here that in a couple of sessions from here onwards, there are participants who will be presenting the shlokas. And this is how the shloka will be made available to you, wherein the shloka will be there and also the meaning will be there. You just need to kind of learn it or understand it. And you have a problem in recitation, there will be a link and we can play the link. And that's what exactly I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to play a link which plays shloka in its entirety. So here's the link. We play the link right now.
अथ प्रथमोऽध्यायः अर्जुनविषादयोगः धृतराष्ट्र उवाच धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुयुत्सवः मामका पाण्डवाश्चैव किम कुर्वत Sanjay?
So this is the first shloka of Bhagwat Gita. Very interesting one. So let's break it and see what it is trying to say. They say, Dhritarashtra Uvacha. That's pretty clear to all of us. Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre. So Kurukshetra So Kurukshetra, we all know that is where the entire Bhagwat Gita was written, because Kauravas and Pandavas came face to fight. So Samaveta means having gathered. Gathered for what? Yujutsavaha. This means they were gathered to fight. Fight where? At Kurukshetra. And fight for what? So they say it is Dharma Kshetra. So interesting part over here is Bhagavad Gita starts with the word dharma and it ends with the word mama. And it is not a coincidence. Dharma basically talks about the universal order, right? They talk about the universal order, how the universe has gathered itself and how the cosmos functions. And that is what Bhagavad Gita starts talking about. And when it says mama, it simply means that what is my Swadharma? What is it I am supposed to do? Align myself with the universal order, right? So that exactly is what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. And therefore, it is not a coincidence that it starts with dharma. The first shloka starts with dharma, and the last shloka ends with mama, right? Now, the interesting part is the shloka in itself looks very simple, wherein Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya that what is happening there in Dharma Kshetra, in the land of Dharma, or what is happening in Kurukshetra, which is the land of Dharma. You will be in, it is very interesting to see right now that this shloka itself has so many layers. And it starts with the concept called dharma. The beauty about Bhagavad Gita is that there are a lot of symbolisms. And we are going to look into each and every symbolism right now. Let's look at the first symbolism. And we will be able to appreciate why this text is so very deep. The first symbolism is a battlefield, right? Now, when we are talking about battlefield, battle between what? Battle between dharma and adharma. Now, the question I want to ask you right now is dharma and adharma equivalent to good versus evil? What are your thoughts about it? Is dharma versus adharma is equivalent to good versus evil? We all say these are the good deeds, these are the evil deeds. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think they're equivalent, Vidhan. Dharma for someone, maybe to do something, it should be perceived as adharma for the other. Good and evil is like, I like someone, I don't like someone. That's my thinking.
Perfect. So if you look at the Western literature, there is always a classic battle between good and evil, right? That there is a devil or a Satan. There is always a fight between the good and the evil. But in our Hinduism, there is no specific mention of evil and evil. They talk about adharma and there are direct consequences of adharmic act. Hello. Nobody is an evil here. There are acts which can be classified as dharmic. There are acts which are classified as adharmic. And this is interesting, and let's understand with a good analogy right now. So look at your body, right? Your body is having a certain order, isn't it?
लास्ट बारी जब हम लोगों ने बेंगलोर एसजेट में अपना पास
Okay, this was not for me then. All right. So your body has a natural order. So when you eat a fruit, there is a mechanism in the body. What it does is it digests the food and does whatever it is required to be done. It is not happening basis your willpower. It is happening automatically. So if that is a natural order of the body, it is called dharma. That is the body's dharma. That is the dharma of stomach. That the food needs to be digested. I'm saying stomach, including intestine, that the food needs to be digested and the nutrients needs to be pushed out in throughout the body. That is the dharma of the stomach. That is the natural order of the stomach. Now, if you drink a coffee, what it does to your body, a very strong coffee, what it does to your body, or what does it does what it does to your gut. What is it?
It
Sorry?
affects negatively.
Right.
Say it burns the gut. I mean, it's basically is not really good.
Perfect. So if you drink coffee, I think we'll have to mute. All right. So if we drink the coffee, it somewhere affects the natural order of your stomach. Yes or no? Correct? So having a coffee may be called what? It is not aligning with the body's natural order. That can be called as adharma. Similarly, having a good alkaline food, if you have it, which aligns with your body, that will be called dharma. But having a coffee may not necessarily affect everybody's system. There are some systems which will get affected. There are certain systems which will not get affected. So your dharma, the dharma of the body, will react differently with different people. The point, what we are trying to make over here is that there is a system. Similarly, just as your body has a system, the universe also has a system. There's a natural order. If your actions are aligned with this natural order, it will be called dharma. If it is not aligned with the natural order, it is called adharma. Another analogy that if you want to understand, let's take your own body, and this is what Swami Tadatmananda very interestingly explains to us, that our body there's some concept called homeostasis, that your body will have a specific temperature, right? But as soon as a disease hits your body, so somewhere the natural order of the body gets affected, isn't it? And as soon as the disease gets thrown out of the body, when the medication works, where things work, the body slowly comes back to its natural order, comes back to its dharma, right? And this is what they say, that whenever the dharma of the universe or the cosmos gets disturbed, then Avatara comes and tries to restore dharma. It is like when your body becomes sick, when the dharma of your body gets misaligned, you take steps to align the dharma of your body. So here again, please understand, dharma is not clearly mandated as good or bad. It is understanding the natural order and aligning to that natural order. So here in Bhagwat Gita, the first symbolism is battlefield. So there are two groups. The first group, which is the group of Kauravas, who hated Pandavas, always wanted to kill them by any means. They stand up for adharma. And a set of people, say Pandavas, who is basically wanting to get back what has been taken from them, stand for dharma. So there is basically a fight between dharma and adharma. So the same person, so there is no specific thing that you are dharmic or you are adharmic. At some point of time, your own action may be dharmic. At some point of time, your actions may be adharmic. So it does not necessarily make you good or evil. So you cannot personify anyone as a good or a evil. The actions of any person can be considered dharma, adharma, or adharma. Is that clear? Is that clear? So this is the first misconception we need to take out of our head, that it is not. So if you're eating good food, you are doing a dharmic activity. If you're not eating good food, it is a dharma. As simple as that, right? That's when it comes to the body. Similarly, it talks about the universe. This is the first symbolism that it talks about, battlefield. Now look at the second symbolism, which is even more interesting. So when Mahabharata was written, they could have always said that the fight is happening between two different princes or kings of two different states. But here they are saying that the fight or the battle is happening between the same family, the same Kurus, the same bloodline, the same genetics. What does it mean? What is it trying to symbolize?
That the battle is always within you.
Perfect.
I mean, yeah, inside outside. Yeah.
Perfect.
The Kurukshetra is it within yourself.
Within yourself. Just think about it. That Bhagwat Gita, when it was written, they could have always said that there is a country A or a country B, a kingdom 1 and the kingdom 2, and there's a fight going on. But here, they're saying one kingdom has both set of people. That means it's the same bloodline. It is the same Kuru, which goes to say that you are one individual. Within your mind, within your head, there'll be a constant duel between two things. Does it make sense? Suppose you are working for an organization. There's a constant duel, whether I should take care of the organization needs or the client needs. Shall I take care of myself, self-care, or the care for the family, if it is contradictory? Shall I basically have empathy for others, or shall I compete? Shall I hoard more and more money for my safety's purposes, or shall I start giving? If I'm going through a bad marriage, shall I go for a divorce, or shall I stay in the bad marriage for the sake of children? Shall I go for a fast-paced growth in my career, take up opportunities which makes me rich, which allows me to grow up in my career, or I look at things which are aligning to my interest, I go for peace of mind? Shall I continue to be a non-vegetarian, or shall I become a vegetarian, or now even worse, vegan? So do you see this? So aren't these constant thoughts going in your head all the time? And then somewhere you feel this is right, this is wrong, this is correct, this is incorrect. Who decides for me? What should I do? What I should not do? And there will be no clear-cut answers. If you talk to people, some of them who align to your point of view, you will like them. Some of them you don't align to your like, you will not like them. Does it make sense? Now, today I want each one of you to appreciate how deep Bhagwat Gita will go, because it is first going to say there is a constant battle which is happening. And where is that battle happening? Battle is happening right inside you. Now let's look at the third analogy, even beautiful. Now, Duryodhana, who has been called as being on a side with Adharma, he is a son of a blind king. Why suddenly this blind king angle has been brought in? Duryodhana could have been a son of any king. I mean, you don't need to have a son or a dharmic child just because you are blind, isn't it? A dharmic child can be born out of parents with eyes. But over here, Duryodhana, which represents a dharmic act, is an offspring of a king who is blind. What does it mean? Anyone?
It's like the mind which is blind.
Okay. Right.
Sorry, you're talking about Duryodhana, right?
No. Why? What is the symbolism of a blind king?
Okay. Yeah, it is the mind. Yeah, it is the mind which is blind, and
Okay.
Dhritarashtra is shown as blind. So
Okay.
mind just absorbs whatever is the input that's coming from the sense organs. And if you were to blindly believe that, your mind actually becomes blind unless and until you're using your intellect.
Perfect. That's a nice interpretation. Anyone else?
Could it also mean not seeing things as is, but being deluded by one's thoughts?
Perfect.
Taking inputs from anything that is around.
Okay.
Could it be that it's a kind of avoidance syndrome where you don't want to know, or you're avoidance syndrome, in the sense you're avoiding conflict. You don't want to know the reality, and so you're blinding yourself to the reality around you.
Perfect.
Also, the decision making comes more from the emotions rather than the intellect, the buddhi.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Also, I think more so it is like self-aware. Know what is happening around you, and you are aware. You still are blinded by your own inhibitions, and yeah, you may not want to see the light because you don't want to, or you're blinded by a lot of apprehensions in inhibitions around you. Correct. Or within you.
Right.
That could also be like somebody who is blind here.
Absolutely. That could be also very good context. Anyone else? Okay. So from how Madhusudana interprets it and how beautiful it has been told is that the blind king represents avidya and Duryodhana represents adharma, which means that avidya leads to adharma. And I'm going to explain to you. I'm just giving you the context, and I'll try and use some of these words which may not necessarily have an English direct interpretation. So I'm going to use some of the words. So for example, dharma in itself does not have any proper English word. So I'm going to use the word dharma, and we are going to use avidya. What is avidya? Avidya is not the lack of knowledge. Avidya simply means the lack of understanding that you are a spiritual being. Lack of understanding that you are a spiritual being, right? See, in Chandogya Upanishad, they have clearly said that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. They have clearly said that everything is Brahman. There is nothing which is apart from Brahman. So the divinity that is within me, the very consciousness that shines through me, the very divinity that shines through me, and the very divinity that shines through you, and the very divinity that shines through everyone, the very consciousness that shines through everyone is one and the same. So that is called the spiritual understanding. Now, when we do not have this understanding of that I am divine by nature, everyone is divine by nature, if that ignorance is there, when that spiritual ignorance is there, then your level of ego becomes very high. The level of self becomes very high. And when that self becomes very, very strong, then it leads to adharma. That is when you do adharmic acts. So let's take an example. If at all you feel, and if you sort of understand there is a divinity within you and divinity around everyone else, it will be very difficult to harm anyone, because you will feel there is divinity everywhere. The level of empathy will automatically increase. So the fact that we have forgotten that we are the spiritual beings having a human experience, we sort of somewhere believe that we are human beings having a spiritual experience. That is the problem, right? So This is what it symbolizes, that when we are blind, or when we are blind to what? When we are blind to our spiritual nature, that leads to actions which can be called adharma. So what is it that we need to do? We need to know more about who am I and get to know more about ourselves, our essential nature, ourself in terms of what is my essential nature, and what will that happen when you kind of restore your spiritual nature, or you somewhere find out your inherent nature. In that case, you will slowly engage into actions which are aligned. You see this? Right? So Swami Vivekananda very clearly said that there is no evil apart from ignorance. So blind king represents ignorance, and ignorance is also known as avidya. Avidya of my inherent nature, which is spiritual, which is consciousness, and that leads to adharma. So what does Bhagwat Gita do? You will see in a lot of chapters, it tries to make us understand what is my essential nature and what is the essential nature of the universe. By understanding what is the essential nature of universe, by understanding my essential nature, nobody needs to tell us what is the right and the wrong thing to do. We will automatically have that understanding. So this is the third one. Is it clear? The first symbolism is that there is a war. War between dharma and adharma. Second symbolism is that this war is happening where? It is happening between the Purus, that is, it is happening inside me. The third symbolism is that most of the time one ends up being on the side of adharma because we have somewhere forgotten our inherent nature, because of avidya, because of lack of my knowledge about my own self. Okay, let's look at the fourth one. Interesting one. Shreyas versus prayers. Do we all know about this story? What happened when anybody want to talk about it? What happened in the story when both Duryodhana and Arjuna went to Shri Krishna for help?
Yeah, I can just
Please go
recall
ahead.
what. So this was just before the battle. I guess they wanted to decide on how to get the help of Krishna. So Krishna would have said, come over and meet me in my room.
Right.
Whoever comes first, and I would allow them to request first. So both Arjuna and Duryodhana both want to go first. Arjuna reaches earlier and he chooses to sit by the feet. And Duryodhana comes a little later, but he says, okay, let me go and sit. There's a chair there. I want to sit there.
Right.
So that'll be a little behind where Krishna is lying down. He's sleeping there. So Arjuna just rests near his legs, and Krishna opens his eyes and he then looks at them and asks. So that is when he makes a choice. Duryodhana says, I think Duryodhana would have come earlier. Just correct me. So Krishna allows Arjuna to ask for the wish. And in spite of Arjuna saying it's okay, Duryodhana could ask. But Arjuna asks for Krishna, and Duryodhana asks for the army, because that's the thing Krishna would have allowed them to choose. Either me, who will fight without any arm. I'm not going to fight there with my arms. Or you can choose the army, the largest army that he had. So Arjuna just chooses him.
Perfect, Paula. Thank you so much for this. So very beautifully said. So ultimately, Krishna gave a choice to both the brothers, cousin brothers, that one side it's me, and I'm not also going to fight. And one side we have the entire army. Choose what you want to choose. So Arjuna chose Shri Krishna, very well knowing that he's not going to fight. And Duryodhana was very happy to get the big army, right? What is this symbolism over here? I'll come to the technical words later. What is the symbolism over here?
Is it that the guru can take you on the right path and yeah, the importance of having the right mindset to conquer any sort of
Yeah,
all right.
sorry.
Please go
Or
ahead.
identifying the divine within and choose the divine instead of the worldly materialistic things, because that's what will lead us to where we want to go ultimately,
right.
Rather than if I choose the divine within and work on myself of the divine that we are,
right.
I think that's the right path to go, rather than picking the materialistic things, which ultimately it's going to be a failure, right? Or we may not be able to achieve what we want to do in our, as the divine beings that we are.
Perfect.
Okay, I feel that according to this story, both of them are present in front of Krishna, but Arjuna chooses to place himself at the Lord of the feet, surrendering himself for being subservient, feeling that he does not bring his ego there, whereas Duryodhana does not want to be by the side of the leg. He wants to be equal. He thinks that he is equal, or the ego comes in the way. So that is again a thing of ignorance that will prevent you from reaching greater heights, or whatever you call.
All right, perfect. So the interesting part over here is, and all of you are correct the way you're thinking, and I'm just going to put it out there. So in Kathopanishad, which is very interesting Upanishad in itself, very, very profound. A lot of Bhagwat Gita shlokas are taken from Kathopanishad. So there's a concept between Shreyas and Preyas. The Shreyas are the actions which are aligned to Dharma, and Preyas are the action which is easy for me, which pleases my sense organs, right? So here the Arjuna had a choice. The easier choice is to basically go after the larger army, because that makes sense. Something which is there, something which is going to fight on my behalf, that makes sense when you are actually getting into a battle to get an army. But he chose Shri Krishna over a large army. He chose Dharma because Shri Krishna was more of an advisor. Arjuna was aware about Shri Krishna that he is not a normal human being. He is someone bigger. There is something very special about him. At that point of time, Arjuna never knew that Shri Krishna is a god. He just knew that he is a very special person. So he chose to go with someone with whom he had lot of regards for, rather than going for a large army, right? So ultimately, as one of you mentioned, that in life there will always be choices to go external or to go internal. There will always be things which will be pulling us externally, which will look beautiful, which will look large, which will look magnificent, which will look powerful. And when we start making an inward journey, you will feel lonely, you will feel secluded, you will not have any confidence, you will not know where you're heading into. But what they're trying to say is that this is a symbolism that Arjuna has chosen a difficult path by choosing divinity over material strength. So this is what it symbolizes. Clear? Again, going back, there is a war between dharma and adharma. The war is happening inside me, and most of the time we get taken away, we get carried away because of Avidya. Avidya of what? Lack of understanding of my essential spiritual self. And therefore, we should somewhere move in the direction of exploring our essential self rather than getting lost in the external world. So you can see how the story is building up and how beautifully they are putting it out in analogies, in pictures, in symbolism. Let's look this. This is the good one. So do you think that Shri Krishna showed his Vishwarupa Darshanam only to Arjuna in the battlefield, or he has shown this before as well? And what happened when he did that, or why he did that? Do you remember? So when Shri Krishna went, before the battle happened, Shri Krishna wanted to go and talk to Duryodhana and his team to Hastinapur to see if there is some kind of a compromise that can be done. So he went to the palace where Duryodhana and his entire team was there, where Shri Krishna came to negotiate a peace deal so that the war does not happen. So Duryodhana and his team felt this is a good time for me to go and capture Shri Krishna so that the Pandavas will get completely demoralized. And therefore, they wanted to capture him. And then Shri Krishna said that you can't capture me because you don't know who I am. And then he exhibited his divine nature. He showed himself as a supreme being, encompassing the entire universe, having countless faces, arms, eyes, adorned with celestial ornaments, entire cosmos within his body. He showed that Rupa to everyone over there. And everybody was scared. And in fact, even Duryodhana was given a cosmic eye to see Shri Krishna so that he understands that he is not preventing his son from getting into a battle against the entire dharmic structure. But what happened after that? Even if Shri Krishna showed his Vishwarupa Darshanam to the entire audience of Duryodhana and his team, what happened?
Not everybody could see it.
Sorry?
I think, not everyone can see it. I think only Bhishma Pitama, Vidur, Dronacharya, and Kripacharya probably were able to see it. Rest all, they were not able to even open the eyes, even to
Yes, but Duryodhana saw.
Yeah, he still did not believe it. He still was in his ignorance and he refused to believe that he's the divine thing. And even Dhritarashtra said, please take back this. I cannot see. I don't want the vision.
All right, perfect. So Duryodhana called him Mayavi, Jadugar. What does this symbolize? There's a very, very strong message in this.
I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Was it not only Arjuna who could see the Vishwa Darshan or the Virat Roop? Could everybody see it?
Yes, there were people in the
No, this we are talking about when he comes to do a treaty to Hastinapur. This is much before the Kurukshetra war.
Okay, okay.
When he comes for a peace treaty.
Okay.
And he asks for 5 villages. That will be satisfied with that. Then Duryodhana wants to capture him and imprison him.
Okay.
That is when he shows his Vishwarupa Darshana. That is Virat Rupa, what he shows to Arjuna.
Okay, okay.
This is Vishwarupa Darshana. In the thing of, he shows it there. Only Bhishma, Dronacharya, Vidura are able to see it.
Okay. Thank you.
So what is the underlying message? Thank you so much, Uma, for clarifying it's a Vishwarupa and Virat Rupa difference. So what is the underlying message? The underlying message is that if you're not prepared, even if the God comes in front of you, you would not believe in it. You need to be prepared for this understanding. So when I do my sessions, a lot of us basically ask that why don't people understand around me? Why don't they go in for spirituality? Why don't they see things which I can see? Why aren't they able to understand? The simple answer is they are not ready for it. And if they are not ready for it, even if God comes in front of them and gives them the darshana, still they will be not moved because they are not ready for it. So if someone is not ready for it, let us not try push anyone around us to go for it. It won't work. That's a very strong message. Right? That's the first point. The second point is, sometimes we hear people saying that, where is the proof of God? I don't see it. Seeing is believing. The point is, for all you know, there is ample amount of proof of existence right now that you can see around you if you're ready to see. The God is making its presence felt here and now, every moment. We should just be ready to see it. Right? So this is a very, very interesting and strong message that those who are not ready, please don't expect. Everything comes on its own time. And two, there is presence, there is a divine presence in and around right now. It's just so that we should be ready to see it. Perfect. Another interesting point, if you see the names that has been used, the names itself has a lot of significance. Say, for example, Krishna is called Rishikesh. Generally, when I was young, I thought Rishikesh means someone who has nice hair. Kesha means hair. That's what I thought. And in Bhagwat Gita, Shri Krishna was adorning beautiful hair. So I thought Rishikesh is called because he has beautiful hair. Only recently I understood it does not mean that. Right? Rishika means the Lord. And Lord of what? Isha. Isha means my five senses. So the Lord, the very consciousness, the very divine, which is experiencing through the five senses, which has control over the five senses, is called Rishikesh. So again, if you look into it, every word, say for example, Arjuna is called Dhananjaya for a specific reason. I'm not getting into so much detailing right now. All right. So the idea to kind of give you this perspective before we get further into shlokas is to understand that there is a lot of depth, there's a lot of layers in Bhagavad Gita. It is not simple one shloka. We have been just talking about the first shloka, and look how layers after layers after layers will start coming out. So what we have learned so far, quickly, there is a fight between dharma and adharma, and that fight is continuously happening within us. And generally, we end up taking our decisions sometimes because of not understanding the dharmic nature, because of not understanding how the dharma functions, without understanding my real essence, and therefore sometimes we end up taking wrong steps. Just because we end up taking wrong steps does not make us evil. It's just so that we need to sort of step up and understand. Also, the idea here is that while the world outside is going to be beautiful, filled with riches, there is a world inside that is your Shreyas. Try and align to that. It may be far more beneficial in the long run, while in the short run, the prayers, the external riches, the external world has a lot of benefits to be given. And more importantly, while you are in the spiritual journey, please do not ask, why don't people understand me? Why don't people change? Why don't people look at a new perspective? Why don't people do this, do that, blah, 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 blah? Because only when they are ready, they will see it. When they were not able to identify Shri Krishna himself, who are we? Who are we to educate them? Right? So let this going to be a lonely journey, be with it. And these are the sequence of things. Is it okay? Perfect. Now let's go to the second shloka. The first shloka is sorted. We spoke about dharma. We started with dharma. We are not going for chapter 1. We are not going shloka by shloka. I'm just going to bring out the essence. From chapter 2 onwards, we will get into shloka by shloka. I'm not getting into it. Each one of you will be presenting. So this is just an easier job that I have taken. All right. So verse 2 to verse 6. Basically, Duryodhana is talking about Pandava's army. It's just describing the great warriors that represents Pandava. From verse 7 to verse 9, Duryodhana is talking about his own army, right? And in Madhusudana's commentary, what he says that somewhere Duryodhana continues to talk about his own army because he was feeling very anxious. And when Bhishma, when he noticed that Duryodhana is feeling anxious, he wanted to somewhere pep him up, to boost his morale. And to do that, what does he do? He roars like a tiger and blows his conch. So this is what verse 10 and verse 12 is all about. All right. So it talks a little bit about the psychological makeup of Duryodhana and what Bhishma does to pep up Duryodhana. All right. So there's nothing much to get into that. Now, verse 13 to verse 14, it talks about the conches that shank were blown. And when it was blown, what was its effect? How it sounded in the field. It talks about that. And then verse 14 to 18, it talks about the various names of the conches. So each conch, then Shri Krishna, the conch which is holding, Arjuna which is holding. So everyone is holding a conch. So the names of each of the conches is described. So if you want to get into detail, you can always read for yourself. But my understanding it is all these things are done to create a setup. Because we have to understand that Mahabharata is a beautifully written story. And when it is transitioning into Bhagwat Gita, it will not quickly transition. It will transition slowly. And this is the transitioning which is happening. It's a beautiful narrative which has been built up in terms of how the war is being captured. The interesting part is in the verse 19, and before I go in over there, so do you have any idea whose army was more stronger? Duryodhana's or Arjuna's?
On paper, Duryodhana's.
Duryodhana's, yes. So they, as they have mentioned, that Kauravas had 11 Akshauhinis. If I'm pronouncing it right, Uma always helps me with all these things. So am I correct pronouncing it right? It is Akshauhinis.
Akshauhini. It's right. You're pronouncing it right. Yeah.
Thank you. So Kauravas had 11 Akshauhinis, while Pandavas only had 7 Akshauhinis, which means Kauravas' army was 50 to 60% more compared to Pandavas. But still Duryodhana was anxious. And when the Pandava's army blew their conches, listening to the uproar and the tumultuous noise which was created, the Kaurava army shivered. So the point they're trying to say that it really does not matter if your strength is lesser. If you are standing on the side of dharma, there is a very likelihood that you will be very, very motivated because you're standing on the side of dharma. There's a special amount of power that comes within. And therefore, the Kauravas' army, even though they were stronger, felt nervous compared to Arjuna's army, which were much lesser in number. Yes, Devish.
Yeah, just a second, Vedant. Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Right. So Vedant, like I was reading some commentaries as well, and there was another view on what you just said is that Duryodhan was quite confident that his army is bigger and better, and that he would be able to conquer or defeat the Pandavas, because there's a term called paryapt and aparyapt, and there is a interpretation which says aparyapt is something which is not infinite and can be conquered.
Right.
So and he was quite confident about the victory, and that's why he went to the war.
Yes.
Knowing very well that Bhishma Pitama has a boon for Ichamrityu and so on, and he has all the right ingredients to defeat the Pandavas.
Right.
So that is another way of looking at it. Because of his ignorance and because of his ego, he was very confident that he's doing the right thing, and whatever he wishes will be fulfilled because he has a larger army and they can very well defeat Pandavas.
Absolutely right, Devesh. So the fact is that before the war, Duryodhana was very confident and therefore he went for the war because his army was much more stronger. So what Madhusudana is trying to explain that during the war, before the war started, he started feeling a little anxious. And his army also felt a little anxious. So that is what, say for example, there's a verse 19 shloka is very clearly stated, wherein the Kauravas army started feeling very anxious after they hear the uproar by Pandavas army. So that was described during the war. So what you're stating is absolutely correct, that before they went for the war, they were far more confident.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is how
Thanks.
you have to probably align this.
Yeah, actually, Devesh, if you look at the previous shloka, right, what Bidan just went through, the previous shloka, Duryodhana is actually listing out the attributes of the Pandava army, not the Kaurava army. So if you remember that shloka in between, he goes to Dronacharya and starts talking about the warriors of the Pandava army, which is a very strange thing to do, right? So that part also is coming in the beginning shlokas. Bidan, actually, I had so this was I had read from Swami Ranganathananda's interpretation, and he has mentioned it this way.
Perfect. Yes. So basically, the first 2 to 6 shlokas, if you basically listen to, so he's talking about Pandava's army, and he's basically going to Drona and sort of telling him that you trained them to be this. So this is interesting. I mean, this is an interesting conversation, but again, this is more like trying to understand the mental setup of Duryodhana right now. Thanks, Devesh, for your question. So the last verse, So last verse is basically not necessarily last. So between verse 20 to 23, Arjuna makes an interesting request to Shri Krishna. What request does he make? That place my chariot in between two armies, and I want to see who I am fighting against. Very strange request. And what does Shri Krishna do? Shri Krishna takes him in between the 2 lines of the battlefield, but right in front of Drona, Kripa, and Bhishma Pitama, to whom Arjuna loved the most. And then suddenly chaos happens. And what's the chaos? Arjuna gives his own definition of dharma. And then he starts lecturing Shri Krishna that how this war is against dharma. And this happens to all of us. When we are emotionally, overwhelmed, we start giving reasons to justify our actions. And this is exactly what happened to Arjuna. He got an anxiety attack, and then he started lecturing Shri Krishna that how this war is adharmic. So far, he was completely convinced that war is dharmic, but as soon as he went through his anxiety attack, when his mind got completely distorted, his buddhi stopped working, and his definition of dharma completely changed. So what is that definition of dharma from the perspective of Arjuna? What exactly is dharma from the perspective of Shri Krishna? How do we identify what is dharma, what is adharma, how we should be aligned? We will discuss that in the next session. All right. So this is what we end today with. To ask you a very clear-cut question. What is the aim of Bhagwat Gita? Is Bhagwat Gita going to tell you, give you the list of commandments, do this or do this?
No.
No. What it will give you is the overall principle. The principle that will help you decide what is your Swadharma, what is Dharma, and align to it. All right? And it will also try and finally take your attention to your own innate nature. So it's going to talk about actions, and it is also going to talk about your innate nature. So this is how we close for today. We've already crossed an hour. May I request Uma to just do the prayers, please?
Partaya प्रतिबोधितां भगवते नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितः पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वा अनुसन्दधामिनी भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. If otherwise, we see you again next week.
Thank you, Bidan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bidan.
Thank you, Bidhan. Thank you.
Thank you.